In this plain language final exam, let's review the primary plain language and most important tools. Free your verbs, use pronouns, and use active voice constructions. We can start again with a little bit of a review for what is passive. Which is the passive voice construction there? Remember, you're looking for a to be verb followed by a word that ends in ed or en. Which is it? Hopefully you answered is delivered. Let's take another sample, which is passive here. Where's the to be verb followed by a word that ends in ed or en? The correct choice here is was written. If you selected has written, then you were very close, but has is not the verb to be, it is the verb to have. It's a different animal. The passive voice construction needs to have a to be verb like was written. Now let's do a little bit more practice. The boy was bitten by the dog. By now you've become plain language beginners. At least you should know fairly quickly that the active voice version of that is the dog bit the boy. Let's look at this that says the attendees will be entertained by us. We are perfectly happy if at this point in your training you come up with a solution that says something like, we will entertain the attendees. That's a perfectly good plain language solution. But as you progress in your studies and you become more skillful with plain language, it would be a thing of beauty if your plain language solution to this ultimately becomes, we will rock you. All right, is this plain language? This comes from an actual document. Now the final exam questions for this section comes in 3 parts. Question number 1, is this plain language? Hopefully you answered, no, it is not plain language. Part number 2 is, what do these words describe? And the correct answer for that is, these words describe an airplane crash. And finally, question number 3, do these words appear in a document exactly as you see them here? And as you might suspect, the answer to that is yes. Let's review a few more higher level examples of plain language. Here's a chance for you to put everything together that you've learned today and to actually use them on some real life situations, things that happen around us. You'll have a chance to experiment with 3 real life situations. We are going to try one that exists right here in this building to give you a sense of plain language at work. You'll have a chance to see the before and have a chance to put it into plain language. The first one deals with a sign that's in this building, a sign that I see when I go downstairs and I use the gym and the fitness center, and I come back and I have to use the elevators to get back into my office. When I board the elevator, I see a large red sign, right? And on that red sign, it tells me information about use of the elevator during emergencies and that sort of thing. I'm going to show you the exact words on that sign, and you are going to do a plain language critique and come up with an alternate solution that uses plain language. As you look at what I'm about to show you, these words, give yourself a break. You can say that you've forgotten everything that we've talked about as long as you remember 2 things. That unclear writing has no pronouns and an overuse of passive voice constructions. So if you use those criteria, when you look at the words, are there any pronouns and is it a passive voice construction, you will now see those words differently than you've ever seen words before. Let's take a look at what that sign says in the elevator. Now, if I showed you this early today, at the beginning of the course, you would have said, it looks okay, why are you screaming? But by now you should be able to say, there's no pronouns there, and it's a passive voice construction. This section here that says be used, right, shall not be used. two primary sins of lousy writing: no pronouns and a passive voice construction. Knowing what you know about how to use pronouns and convert this to active construction, please take a moment and turn this into plain language. Of the solutions and of the options you had, hopefully you came up with something that looks a bit like this. Do not use these elevators if there is an emergency in this building. That is an active voice construction. It is much clearer, and there's plenty of ways to do it to get that message across, but that one is at least follows the plain language guidelines. It doesn't answer the question for us about why, if the engineers don't want us to board the elevator in the event of an emergency, why the sign is on the inside of the elevator instead of on the outside of the elevator, but they may have a good reason for it that's not known to me. Let's take a look at another example of plain language in daily life.